For people in the back, there are a few seats, in the audience. So welcome to the University of Scranton. My name is Charles Kratz. I am the Dean of the Weinberg Memorial Library here at the university, and it is, I take great pride in that we are the sponsor of the J. Nathan Ph.D. Visiting Scholar Lecture Series each year. And it's exciting to realize that this is the 6th annual one. So it's been running for 6 years. But for people who are joining us for the first time, welcome. And let me tell you a little bit about this particular lecture series when Jay first decided to found it. We wanted to invite international diplomats and dignitaries and scholars to visit the University of Scranton to address issues that will enlighten and benefit our students, our faculty, our staff, and especially the Northeastern Pennsylvania community. And so we're really excited to see all of you here. So its real purpose is to enrich the intellectual life and to share a cultural moment in the arts or music, and you'll see that today when we introduce you to Lithuania. I will say that Lithuania has a special place in my heart because, although I haven't been there for 20 years, I was telling His Excellency today that I had a chance to be there in 1999 and just loved the country. And so for you to be here today with us and for us to experience Lithuania through your eyes is a special treat for us. So we're going to start today with a short film that is going to tell you what is Lithuania. And with the magic.
I've been traveling the world for the past 5 years, and every time I meet people on the road that ask, where do you come from? I'd always come back saying Lithuania, just to hear them go, huh? Then I would spend 15 minutes explaining what Lithuania was, that it was actually an independent country, that we had our own language, and that we were located on planet Mars. At some point, it became a little annoying to have to explain the same thing over and over and over and over. So I decided to make this video where I'll tell you everything you need to know about my beautiful country, so that the next time we meet on some random mountain in the Himalayas, you'll go, dude, I know what Lithuania is. So without further ado, here's everything you need to know about my gorgeous little country, Lithuania. Over 2,000 years before Christ, the Baltic tribes occupied the lands of the current Baltic states. These Baltic people traded amber with the Romans and then fought the Vikings. In those times, only one small tribe was known as Lithuanians, but it was this tribe that consolidated the majority of the other tribes. This process accelerated under Grand Duke Mindaugas, who became a Christian, received the crown from the Pope, and became the first and the only king of Lithuania in 1253. After his death, the Grand Duchy of Lithuania fell back to pagan ways, leading to a centuries-long conflict with the Teutonic Knights. In the 14th century, ruled by Grand Duke Vytautas, Lithuania became the largest country in Europe, stretching from the Baltic to the Black Sea. In the 16th century, a new threat came from the east, with Moscow rapidly gaining power. In response, Lithuania and Poland formed a Commonwealth in 1569. However, the Commonwealth lost a series of wars, and in the late 18th century, the country was divided among the three superpowers of those times, with the main Lithuanian lands falling under Russian control. By 1865, printed Lithuanian language was banned. However, knygnešiai, literally book carriers, kept the Lithuanian language alive by smuggling banned books and setting up legal schools in villages. Then, after World War I, Lithuania managed to once again become a free country called the Republic of Lithuania. The short period of freedom was cut short again by World War II. Initially, Lithuania was occupied by the Soviet Union, then the Nazi Germany, but eventually fell back to the hands of the Soviet Union again. In this era, hundreds of thousands of people were killed or expelled to Siberia in cattle carriages. The Soviet occupation lasted for 45 years and only ended in 1990. A massive independence movement was established and made it clear that not even the Soviet machine was able to suppress the Baltic people's will for freedom. One of the biggest achievements of the independence movement was called the Baltic Way. which was a peaceful political demonstration organized in 1989, when 2 million people joined hands forming a 600-kilometer-long human chain through the Baltic countries, thus demonstrating unity in their efforts towards freedom. Finally, on the 11th of March 1990, Lithuania became the first Soviet-controlled territory to restore independence and has been a fast-growing country for the last 28 years.
In the 21st century, Lithuania has become a super fun European country that's been run by an awesome woman president for the last 9 years. She's so cool that even the president of the United States of America fights for her attention by shoving people around. Where are your manners, Donald? What's happening? We're disputably known to be the geographical center of Europe. Sorry, Poland and Ukraine, you guys haven't built a memorial for the center of Europe, so I guess we are the center now. Right here. Yes. And we are absolutely crazy about basketball. Most kids try themselves out playing basketball, and some of them grow up to be great players, like Tadas, Žydrūnas Rolandas, and Jonas Valanciunas.
Vasily, up fake, strong move.
Even the Soviet Union's national basketball team at one point was comprised of 4 out of 5 Lithuanian starting players. And we are one of the only 3 teams in the world that have beat the United States at the Olympics after 1990.
Foul, and the United States has lost to Lithuania.
A tiny country of 3 million people no one knows about beat the United States of America at the Olympics? Oh, that must have hurt, bro.
Our most famous dish is called Zeppelin, named after a Zeppelin airship. It's these huge potato pastries with meat inside and sour cream on top. We also have vedarai, which is pig's intestine stuffed with meat and potatoes and sour cream on the side. If you're looking to gain another few extra kilos, check out Žemaičių blynai. Next level potato pancakes that are filled with meat and, yes, you guessed, sour cream on top.
Last but not least, let's not forget my personal favorite, the infamous, the legendary, the one and only, my boy, Tadas. Yes, your eyes ain't playing with it. It really is a cold thing beetroot soup with dill, onions, eggs, potatoes inside, and of course, sour cream on top. Lithuania boasts 4 very distinct seasons. Autumn, when it's raining all the time. Winter, when you pray you won't freeze to death today. Spring, when the nature comes alive with the most magnificent colors. And summer, when everyone's out on the beach trying to soak up enough sun for the whole year. Spoiler alert, it never works out. Yeah! We have tons of lush forests, countless huge lakes, and magnificent coastal dunes. Also, don't forget to bring some next level hiking gear, because our tallest mountain reaches the elevation of 294 meters above sea level, making us one of the flattest countries in the world. Hey, that's it. That's the highest part of the country, right here. Snow-capped mountains, I'm above the clouds. What's happening? Oh! Let's try to make friends with them, boys. We should become friends on Facebook now. I don't want to sound like I've got purple glasses on, but there are quite a few other really interesting facts about Lithuania that I thought you should know. Our capital, Vilnius, is one of the very few capitals in the world that you can fly a hot air balloon over. Apparently.
Linguists say that of all the languages spoken today, Lithuanian is the closest to ancient Sanskrit, making it one of the oldest languages in the world, and also super difficult. Vilnius University was established in 1579, making it the oldest university in Eastern Europe. We also boast one of the fastest internet speeds in the world and are sometimes referred to as the Northern European capital of tech startups.
If your mouth is wet for that cold pink soup and you want to get beaten by first graders in the game of basketball, or visit the very disputable, yet we have the monuments so not that disputable, geographical center of Europe, come visit Lithuania. These are my top favorite touristy places you should explore. First, the Castle of Trakai. It's a massive medieval castle situated literally in the center of a large lake, just outside our capital, Vilnius. This castle was built by Vytautas the Great when Lithuania was the largest country in Europe and was the political center for the whole country. The Hill of Crosses, a UNESCO World Heritage Site in the north of Lithuania that features over 100,000 crosses from all around the world and looks absolutely magical. Sand dunes of Nida, the only sand dunes in the whole country that are so beautiful and desert-like, they make you stop and wonder, where are the camels at? And finally, the place where I was born, the one and only, another UNESCO World Heritage Site, the old town of Vilnius. It's one of the largest surviving medieval old towns in Northern Europe that features an absolutely legendary cathedral, a gorgeous castle tower, the Hill of Three Crosses, the Republic of Užupis, and tons of other cool spots. Now that you watched the whole video, you need to promise me two things. First, when you meet me on some random mountain in the Himalayas, approach me and say, dude, you come from that really cool tiny country in Europe that has the best soup ever, or what? Secondly, post this video on your social media with the hashtag #Šaltibarščiai and show your friends how knowledgeable you are about the tiny, gorgeous countries of the world. Thank you very much for watching the video and stay awesome wherever you are in the world. Bang!
So you couldn't start with a more enthusiastic person and an enthusiastic view of a beautiful country. So it's my pleasure now to introduce you to our benefactor, Dr. Jay Nathan, who started an endowment fund for this lecture series and has worked with us for countless hours over the past 6 years to help bring many diplomats and scholars to the University of Scranton. And that matches so well with our strategic plan of our university, which is very strong on global outreach to the global communities around the world, and to introduce our students, especially, to those global communities. Jay Nathan is a retired tenure professor from the University of Scranton. He currently works at St. John's University as well. He's an author, past president of the Global Awareness Society International, a lifetime member of the Fulbright Alumni Association, a member of the 1946 Fulbright Society, a current board member of the Fulbright Society. Dr. Nathan, in particular here, received a grant from the United Nations Development Program, which provided an opportunity to serve as a visiting professor at Vilnius University in Lithuania. Jay, please come up and introduce our honored guest.
Ačiū, dėkui, Dean Kriščiūnas, and it's a pleasure always to be back here in the University of Scranton. And in 1994, as Dean Kriščiūnas has mentioned, that I was really fortunate to have had this United Nations Development Program grant to soak in the beautiful country that is Lithuania. And I could not imagine that I would have this privilege of meeting such wonderful people and learn a little bit of the language. And Lithuania is, for natives, it's a Litua. And again, labas, I should say vakaras, good evening. Now, to introduce the ambassador this evening, His Excellency Rolandas Kriščiūnas, Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary of the Republic of Lithuania to the United States of America and to the United Mexican States. Now, Rolandas Kriščiūnas assumed his role as Lithuania's ambassador to the United States on August 3, 2015. He attended College of Vytautas Didysis University in Kaunas, Lithuania. I visited Kaunas and trekked to Klaipėda and had professors. We had a good time, and also on a good day, you could see the Baltic Sea curving, and you could see Gdansk, Poland. Now, Kriščiūnas joined his country's Ministry of Foreign Affairs shortly thereafter, gaining his bachelor's degree in informatics in 1993. And was the third secretary in the economics department, economic analysis division. The following year, he took time to go to the United States and study economics at Ohio State University. He graduated with a master's degree from there in 1996. He also completed European Union studies at the Klingendale Institute of International Relations at The Hague, the Netherlands. His first Washington assignment came in 1998 when he was stationed at his country's embassy as a first secretary. His Excellency returned to Lithuania in 2001, but this time to the Finance Ministry, where he was a director of the European Union Program Management Department. In 2004, he was named as Undersecretary of Finance. In 2008, toward the end of his tenure at that post, he completed a management studies program at the Swedish Institute in Stockholm. The following year, he was named Vice Minister at the Finance Ministry. He returned to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in 2012 as a Vice Minister and remained in the job until being posted to Washington. His Excellency speaks Lithuanian, of course, Russian, English, and French, and is married to Givile Kriščiūnas, and they have a son, Julius Herkas Kriščiūnas. I should say Kriščiūnas. And so it is an honor and pleasure to be here, and I have listened to him this afternoon with the provost and many of the conversation. We could not have chosen better ambassador in a sense of articulation and the values and the Lithuanian culture and tradition. Please give a warm welcome to His Excellency Kriščiūnas, please.
Thank you, Jay, and not just for this very detailed introduction, but most for this wonderful initiative this actually what is happening, and all the people actually who were the part of this very wonderful initiative to bring a piece of Lithuania to Scranton, to speak about the country, what it lives with on its mind in today's world. And I was surprised a number of times already today, and I'm surprised to see such a wonderful crowd here this evening. For me, I don't know, I lost count how many talks I already done, and I see some faces who already listened probably to the most of them, so I don't know how I'll be convincing them to find something still new, about Lithuania in this speech. Also, looking at the video, I saw that was a mistake. I should have it should have been shown after my speech, because now I feel I will deflate you because it was so enthusiastic. I don't know. I cannot match it. It's at the end of the day for me, and that. But anyway, it's a wonderful crowd, and I would like to talk and tell a couple of things. Of course, let me start saying that Lithuanians, and I see a lot of Lithuanian Americans are there. I don't know if they will agree. It's better to disagree after my speech, in somewhere in the corridors. But in general, I would say Lithuanians, we are humble people. But we do believe deep in our hearts that we make the world a better place to live for everybody. And not just because we are taking a good care of this small piece of land on the side of the Baltic Sea, where the human rights, democracy, human dignity, rule of law is being preserved, and people could live and flourish and create. But also, I think, by our example, and a number of things were touched in this video, showing the world that they could learn from us quite a bit. And Lithuania is a country which knows what does it mean to be big and what does it mean to be small. Because yes, Grand Duchy of Lithuania, as it was told in the video, was at some point the largest state in Europe. And Commonwealth of Poland, Kingdom of Poland and Grand Duchy of Lithuania was the largest state also for a number of years. And today, Lithuania is a small country of 3 million. So we know what is, but I was told by one of the US diplomats, we feel like, once big, you're always big in your mind. And that probably has something into it. There is something this coded in our genes that we see world, a little bit, not just from the eyes or angle of the small country. We feel that we could contribute to the global world, and the size doesn't matter. Also, we know as Lithuanians what does it mean to be old country and to be a young country. Because if to look at two Lithuanians, Grand Duchy of Lithuania, centuries of the Grand Duchy of Lithuania, a number of Grand Dukes, a number of victories, a number of things we have accomplished. But if to look at the Lithuania of today, last year we celebrated centennial of restoration of independence of Lithuania back in 1918. But it doesn't mean we lived in freedom for that centennial. So we spent quite a substantial part of that centennial fighting for our freedom, which we lost. And that's why I always like to tell to American audience, that semi-jokingly, that Lithuania is a small country today. Everything seems to be smaller in Lithuania than in the United States, and everything is of more numbers, bigger numbers in US. The buildings are bigger, and here we have many more things than we do. But Lithuania has twice as many Independence Days as you. Because for a simple reason, Lithuanians love freedom, and they always will be free. And if by any coincidence, historical coincidence, mismatch, we lost it, we will fight for it, and it's just a matter of time when we'll get it back. And that means, that living at the crossroads in Europe for a long time, we build a lot of resilience. And also Lithuania, going to another kind of contradictions, I should tell, that also Lithuanians, we know what does it mean to live in the center, as it was told, because geographical center of subcontinent of Europe is just 12 miles from Vilnius. So when the Grand Duke Gediminas, the legend goes, had a dream and got interpretation of this dream and decided to build the capital city where it's located today, the Vilnius, he was almost at the mark of the center of the subcontinent of Europe, just 12 miles from the very center, geographical center. And it's not an invention of Lithuanians. It's a French geographers who calculated where the center is. So it's not just us believing that it's there. You know, we were told that it's there. And but at the same time, as I said, living at the center of subcontinent of Europe, somehow we still feel in a number of ways that we are living on the edge of something. Because we are living at the same time, and we know and learn to treasure it more and more every day, that we are on the eastern flank of NATO. Some tourist guides in Vilnius would tell you that Vilnius is the most eastern city in Europe which has a Baroque as a dominant style of architecture. So if you love Baroque, Vilnius is the place to be. But that's the most east Baroque made it. You know, so we also, to some extent, are on the edge of Baroque in this case. But Baroque tells, you know, more than just Baroque. It's culture and things. So that's why also another important thing to say to you, that being a Grand Duchy of Lithuania was one of the most tolerant states probably in the world, and the most multinational states in the world. But at the same time, Lithuania lost almost all of its Jewish population in World War II, during World War II, due to Nazi regimes and Nazi regime and local collaborators. So that's also a very painful loss, which we still are grasping, what kind of richness of culture or part of Lithuania's culture we lost. So more than 90% of Jewish population was destroyed during the World War II. And so I could go on and on and on and on, you know, repeating why I think we should be interesting to the world, where so many different experiences are emerging in this small piece of land of today, where Lithuania is situated. But the most important things I would like you to take from this: we are very much freedom-loving, very resistant people, and very creative. Living for centuries on the crossroad, we saw our share of pain and wars. Different armies crisscrossing Lithuanian territory from west to east, from east to west, from north to south. But today we do believe, and always believed, and we love freedom, we love peace. Lithuania is not a threat to anyone, and will never be. But we would like to see our neighborhood living in peace, cherishing each other's freedoms, and building our future and well-being of our people. And we do believe, and that's kind of a dream we will be pursuing on our part. And I do believe that our neighbors one day will be pursuing this too. All of our neighbors one day will be pursuing there. So when I was asked a number of times, you know, what our relationship is one of the countries, one of the largest neighbors we have, I said our relations are hopeful. We remain hopeful, you know, that it will be much better one day, and I don't see the reasons why it should not one day. And when the security is there, the peace is there, the living on the crossroads is a very strong point for any of the countries. Because what we already see today, for example, 14% of Lithuania's GDP is created by logistics, meaning that we are good tradesmen. So you don't need to produce something to earn your living. We just make goods move from south to north, from west to east, and vice versa. So being good in logistics, you're a very attractive spot for the investments, because you know how to move things anywhere globally. Also, we don't have any resources except us Lithuanians, human beings. So we don't have oil, gas, we need to import all this, you know, minerals, you name it. But we have us, Lithuanians, and we think we are very smart people. Most of Lithuanians speak at least 2 languages, foreign languages. 60% speak more, and close to 60% of Lithuanians have a higher education, which is highest in European Union, I don't know, in the world. If you look at the different measurements or indexes of the doing business or freedom of economic freedom or business climate, you would see Lithuania ranking not very far from the very top. So that's also clear. Being small, you need to be fast, because small fish survives when it's fast. And that's why you will find, that in the sectors like FinTech or blockchain technologies, Lithuania is one of the leading countries in Europe today. And if you look at Lithuanian economy, you will find that this small economy of 3 million is very well diversified. You will find such traditional sectors as agriculture, textiles, but textiles not the old ones, the textiles which you could use for firefighting and other extreme conditions. At the same time, you will find the sectors like biotechnologies, and one of the professors I mentioned already that today to one of the group of the people that Professor Kriščiūnas from Vilnius University, I hope that one day he will be the first Lithuanian-born Nobel Prize winner, because his contribution to the discovery of CRISPR technology, gene editing, where we still grasp, what does it mean for humanity, I think is very strong and clear. We do have a Nobel Prize winner living not very far from there in Yale University, Robert Schiller, but he's not Lithuanian-born. He's Lithuanian descent, and he still have plenty of relatives and visiting them from time to time in Lithuania. But besides technology, biotechnologies, IT is another sector where I would invite to look everyone into. And one of the things I would tell you as an example to show that a number of big companies are finding Lithuanians very smart people in IT is Western Union. Not a lot of Americans know that the largest Western Union office in the world is in Vilnius. We are big, a very big, substantial part of the global business. So we have 2,000 Lithuanians working for Western Union global business. And the companies NASDAQ, Uber, and you could go on and on, also have a very substantial presence in Lithuania using very smart people, very tech-savvy people in this regard. FinTech, as I said, is another important thing, and that's kind of a most recent creation by Lithuania, because we saw that while we cannot stay aside of all these important developments, the banking, the transfers, and everything else, they are changing, and they will be never as we used to know them. And why not to be a part of it? So let's. If there is any. Okay, so I'm told that the people in the back haven't heard a single word I was telling. Well, it didn't mean much.
This one will be powerful too. You got this one.
I almost was saying, it was nice talking to you, and and all of a sudden I know I need to restart. But basically what I want to say, that Lithuania is up for business, is ready for business. There is a number of US companies which found us and made us a part of the global business. There are a number of Lithuanian companies finding America. And with Pennsylvania, I should tell, we have a special relationship by many, many, many accounts. One of those is National Guard relationship. And I hope it will lead one day for the governor of Pennsylvania, first time ever to visit Lithuania. We have a wonderful diaspora. You could look around, and that Pennsylvania was one of the first states where Lithuanians visited and stayed, the ones who emigrated there. And long before Lithuania was reestablished as a country back in 1918. And that you cannot change. Human ties, I always believed and will always believe that those are the most important ones. Business ties, they're coming when they follow the human ties. And we have a number of very wonderful examples when American Lithuanians were key in deciding investing or not investing in Lithuania, for example, from the United States and others. So that's where I would like to stop. We still will have a session of the questions. I will be eager to answer if there are still any questions left, because I spent all day almost at Scranton. And it's my pleasure to be on Scranton. It's my second time at Scranton, and the first time I visited this wonderful University of Scranton. Thank you so much for inviting me there. I am pleased to join you for this evening.
So we're going to spend some time on questions now, and I'm going to just kick us off with one that I think might have been asked at the beginning of the day, which I was not out, a session that you did with students at 11 o'clock this morning. But what has been Lithuania's reaction to Brexit? Give you a challenging question to start out with.
Well, in general, we don't like Brexit, because we do believe that Brexit will not bring anything good, or substantially more good than bad, to UK and to EU. And of course, some people would say, look, some companies are transferring their headquarters into Lithuania because of Brexit. Some countries in the European Union will tell the same, that they see some companies moving out of UK to choose another spot because they think, well, the market is larger, and of course the market will be larger in EU. But all those things are small. I think if you look at the very broad and principle, from very broad and principle position, because losing UK inside the EU for Lithuania is losing a partner because we see the world very similarly. We value less protectionism, both of us. We value less red tape, both of us. We value more market economy and similar things. So losing this support, and UK is a heavyweight member of EU, is losing a very valuable partner in the discussions which are important for the shape of all EU. So I think that's why losing UK for EU is a loss, and for each member is a loss. It doesn't matter if you will get one or another business coming to join, because in the long run it's a big loss for everyone.
Thank you. So questions from the audience? Yes, over here. Right here.
Is Russia still a major threat to Lithuania?
I would say it's not like, it's somebody makes a threat which is very obvious, and I also should tell you that if somebody would ask, Alton is fearful that Russia will do something nasty to us, and by nasty we have all different kinds of minds. So I would tell that no, we are not fearful, but we are very rational about it, because we understand that we should be serious about those risks, however small they might be. If you don't pay attention to them, the time they could grow. Because some years ago we couldn't believe that something like events in Georgia in 2008 could happen, but it happened. Also, I think that it was a mistake that the West went to business as usual. So the end was not hearing me again, no?
This is just for the camera.
Okay. We went back to business as usual with Russia after the Georgian events very soon. And that was the lesson Russia learned in our eyes. That's why Crimea happened, because they probably expected in their calculation that, maybe half a year of trouble, the West will be nodding their fingers, saying they don't like it, but then they will accept it. And that means Russia will still get whatever they wanted, and the price they paid, none. And that's why it's important, not to those events which I see those as a test. Russia testing us, how much we will be giving in, what are the limits, when the West will be reacting in more serious terms. And that's why I always claim that the sanctions which we produced after the Crimean occupation by Russian forces, those should stay, and those should grow stronger. If we have doubt that they don't work, we should increase them and make them stronger, because that's a single tool we could show in any civilized way for Russia that what it does is not acceptable. There are no other means. Nobody knows. So basically, to answer your question, I would say, looking at all what was happening in Crimea, Georgia before, we need to be cautious. We have not the slightest doubt that NATO will be supporting us, that the NATO Article 5, which tells that attack against any member is attack against all alliance, is not just empty wording. But it's most important, that Russia also believes that it's not just empty wording. Because if Russia has doubt that it will, in real life, it will work, it could make a vital mistake. Because if it does something and NATO works, that could be a big, big war. And to prevent it, what is important is to show by action, not just by words, that NATO is real. NATO is for sure. NATO is certainty that NATO will react. And that's why it's important that after Crimea, decisions were taken to put a battalion in each NATO battalion in each of the Baltic states and Poland. So in Poland we have a presence, American presence. In Lithuania we have a German-led battalion. In Latvia we have a Canadian-led battalion, and in Estonia we have a UK-led battalion. What does it change, you would ask? It changes a very simple thing. It changes calculation. So if before that, Russia could calculate, for example, how many hours I do have if I attack Lithuania, in theory, when it will be the first troops of NATO could arrive to support local forces, when I will be meeting NATO besides Lithuanians, do I have 1 week? Do I have 3 days? And in those times, you could do a lot of bad things. You could grab a city or territory and then threaten to nuke everyone, for example. Or you'd say, let's negotiate. Okay, let's negotiate. And nobody wants war, so maybe you negotiate. So now it changes this calculation to a very simple thing. There are no time span. You go across the border, you meet NATO forces. And that's why it changes calculation. That's why I believe, it's a very strong message by NATO alliance, which is the most successful in the history of all alliances. Not a lot of people give it a thought, but 1 billion people are being protected by NATO. NATO is a big reason that this 1 billion people live the best probably lives than any other citizen in the world. Those are the most successful, most of them, the most successful economies in the world. The people have the best well-being in those countries. And that's important because when you have security, you could create, you could flourish. And that's the biggest value of NATO. So, to make it very short answer, I would say, no, we don't feel threatened, but we need to pay attention what's happening and to be prepared. And if we are prepared, there will be no threat ever.
Has Lithuania held rotating membership in the Security Council in the recent past? Is that a possibility you did not have in the future?
Yes, but probably not in very short time span because, yes, we did it. We were the first Baltic nation which was a part of the Security Council where the most important decisions are being taken. And that was a very successful presidency. We also had a presidency for some span time because it's rotating. And it was, those were very good, hectic 2 years. And that's why I think that also a part of this mission. We Lithuanians, we believe that we could contribute to the global world.
Thank you. We have a question all the way in the back.
Yes. Does Russia supply any of your energy, and what percentage it does?
We used to, it fluctuates. If you look how much gas we are buying from Russia, now I should tell that we are in driving seat. And that was not the case just a couple of years ago. By the end of 2014, we built LNG terminal. And that reduced gas prices by 30% almost overnight. Because before that, we didn't have an alternative source. We cannot import gas, and which was very important still for heating in Lithuania during the winter time. And we negotiated and negotiated and negotiated with Russia, and it was in vain. So when we decided to build LNG terminal, And that's why I'm telling that Russia respects actual action, not just words, We built LNG terminal. They made every single effort to derail it, even using the domestic politics to derail this project, to play and say why we need it's too expensive, why we just could be a good friends with Russia and we will not need LNG terminal. And it's not always easy to explain people that the gas price went down because of LNG terminal. And we still, yes, buy Russian gas, but at different price, because they cannot charge us more than we will get. If we get a cheaper gas somewhere else, we will buy somewhere else. So 1 year after we built LNG terminal, we saw that almost 60% of our gas came from, for example, Norway. The next year we saw, once again, 60% coming from Russia. But as I said, the conditions changed. Now we have a price we are willing to pay for gas. It doesn't matter where it comes from.
Okay, question right here.
So my question is going to be a little lighter than the rest. I'm proud to say my last name actually means, I think it's the special cranberry Christmas drink, Caecilius, or something like that, somebody told me. So culture is big for me. And potato pancakes are a regular part of my diet. So that being said, as you can tell, if someone asked you the biggest difference between Kaunas and Vilnius, how would you compare and contrast Kaunas and Vilnius?
Wow. I would need to sleep on this, to give you anything of value on that. But it was the biggest difference, it's Kauno Žalgiris, which is still for years to come, and it was, and it still is, the stronger team. And we were always expecting, and myself, I am a Žalgiris fan. But and it's basketball team, if somebody doesn't know it. But I still have this, intention that Vilnius, capital city, should get the team to be able to compete at par with Kaunas, but it's just not happening for whatever reason, and so on. But Kaunas, it's a lovely city where I spent my student years. I did my BA in Kaunas. And Vilnius, that's where I spent most of my life already, even though I was born in Panevėžys, but I left Panevėžys after high school when I was 18 years old. So more of my life I already spent in Vilnius. But all of those cities are important, and of course they will be very different in architecture if you would look. Art Nouveau, and a lot of Lithuanians are discovering how rich, and not just Lithuanians, but Europeans, how rich Kaunas is in Art Nouveau. If you like Art Nouveau architecture, that's a blessing, because it was a temporary capital of Lithuania for 20 years. So everything what we built, the best as Lithuanians in between two world wars, was in Kaunas. And Vilnius, of course, has the most incredible old town in Central Eastern Europe, which is a part of UNESCO heritage, and that makes those cities very different. But both cities are very important. Both cities are very young and plentiful in students. And both cities are so close to each other, and I hope that one day it will take just half an hour for the person to get from Vilnius to Kaunas on train, which means, that it doesn't matter where you live, you could work in any of the cities if you don't mind to commute. And especially if you're from the United States, you probably don't mind to commute.
So what you're telling me is that when I get to Lithuania, I have to go to both cities?
Sure. And this is the heart of Lithuania. Also, you should look at, because close to Vilnius, there are another two ancient capital sites of Lithuania. So we moved our capital city from place to place, but all of them are in 20 miles radius from Vilnius. So that shows, ethnically, that was always the center of Lithuanian culture. And that's why Trakai, which was the castle in the middle of the lake, that used to be a capital of Lithuania. Very good protection for the Grand Duke who was living there. And Vytautas, the most Grand Duke, the most loved probably or respected Grand Duke in Lithuanian history, was born in Trakai. And it's just 12 miles from Vilnius. So, once you're in Vilnius, you basically, in a lot of places at once.
We have a question for Sean and then Maury.
Thank you for gracing us with your presence tonight for that excellent presentation. I was struck by your point about saying how Lithuania is at the eastern edge of NATO, the eastern edge of Baroque architecture. You can make a case it's also at the eastern edge of democracy. You have two much larger dictatorships, your eastern borders, Belarus and Russia, and your neighbor to the south, Poland, is having its issues too. So I'm curious what challenges this has for Lithuanian democracy.
It doesn't cause challenges, I would say, to us, but it also shows for everyone that we should treasure what we have, and we should proud what we created. And sometimes we do forget, what we have created. And it's not just that people all of a sudden, don't value democracy, which is very surprising to me. But probably we just got used to it, and for some reason, better or worse, all of a sudden a lot of people want to experiment, and that's a strange feeling. I don't know. All of us, we have just one lifetime, and probably so we don't know. Maybe it's the history, as they tell, go in circles. So just people grow accustomed to. They got bored. I don't know. It's just everything seems to work, and all of a sudden you feel like, well, it could be maybe better. Or something doesn't work, and it's so easy to, and it became so easy to convince people that something is dysfunctional, doesn't work, and that's why you always will have the people who would like to change the ones in power. And whatever brings them to power, they will use it, and that's why I think it's very important to explain to people and to starting from our own kids when they grow up. And my son, he never saw Soviet Union. So for him, that's a mirage. There's something you could read in the books, or in the movies, especially sci-fi movies. If you make a movie about Soviet Union, my son will watch it and will think that it's sci-fi, that it could not have been like this. It's just another Orwell novel about Animal Farm, and so on. So yeah, but it's. The danger is that having not experienced it, they have not a feeling of it. And less people, I also was told by some people that the less and less Americans are studying history. So if you don't know history, if you don't have a direct attachment to the events which have transpired in the past, and you're not curious about it, you don't value them. You don't value where you could end up. You don't think, and you take a lot of things for granted. And it could collapse very fast. But that could be too late already, or too costly to rebuild what we have. So we are proud to be democracy, and I very much sincerely hope that there will always be, and will never forget what democracy means for us.
Somewhat of a follow-up on the last two questions. What is your commonness and your differences with Estonia and Latvia?
Commonness, I would say, history. That's clearly, tying us up, being captive nations, fighting for our freedom during the Soviet times. But if you look for the differences, we are Roman Catholics, and Latvia and Estonia Protestant countries. So that's clearly an imprint on our cultural differences. Also, if you look at the history, Lithuania was a Grand Duchy of Lithuania, so we had a state dating centuries back. Latvia and Estonia, they were the states created in 20th century. So that also probably brings some differences in our perception or worldview, I guess. I'm getting a bit more philosophical right now, but I think religion, even though even Latvians the closest nation to Lithuanians as there is. Our language is the closest. There are only two languages, Latvian and Lithuanian, which belong to the same family of languages, Baltic. Estonian is Ugro-Finn, so they're closer ethnically to Finland or Finnish people. But as I said, history bundled us up. And sometimes we feel like, oh, should we be Baltics, maybe, and some countries say, oh, should we be named Baltics? We are Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia. But I don't see why not, My personal opinion, yes, the history tied up us. That became a kind of a trademark, but it's a good trademark. I'm proud to be Baltic. Baltic means high quality in many respects, in everything.
And part of the reason was that the affordability of Lithuania, the incomes and all are not up to par, and that it's a relatively expensive country. Is that continuing?
I wouldn't say that it's relatively expensive because Vilnius was selected as the cheapest capital, in good sense, I hope, cheapest capital in Europe, for example, capital city. So it's most affordable, if you could say, the capital city in Europe to live, Vilnius, not Riga, even, and Tallinn. It's Vilnius. But yes, we do have a brain drain. There are a number of reasons for this. One, being closed up for a long time. Of course, we want to see world and being global. Myself, I went in '94. I went to study in Ohio State University. That was the one reason for me to go to see that America. I never seen. I heard about a lot, and I wanted to see it, experience it. And my story is I got a scholarship to Ohio State and I got a scholarship to Cambridge in UK. When I tell this story right now, sometimes people will say, why didn't you go to Cambridge? Cambridge was in Europe. I was in Europe already. I wanted to see United States, and that was the single reason for me. And Ohio State is a good school. It's really a good school. But United States, I wanted to go to United States and to see the country, to really enjoy it and to get my mind what it is, on that. But also to expanding on this. So people go to study still in bunches. And that's why some companies, foreign investors, would go to the universities which have a lot of Lithuanian students and ask them to go back to work for them. That's why, and brain drain is getting lower. And last year was the first year, I think, after some period already where we had a surplus, where the more people came back than moved out. So that's a good trend, I would say, and the numbers will be increasing. The people get better life. In Lithuania, everything is improving, infrastructure, and the jobs are being created. So I think it's becoming better and better place to live. Of course, there always will be people who would like to make a living out of, being space architects or space biologists. And being a small country, we will never have a expansive space program. So of course you will need to tie your fate with some bigger country, going to United States maybe, or there if you really have some interesting thoughts. So there always will be reasons. Some people would go if you are, for example, a professional hairdresser, some profession. Yes, still the differences in income, you will not get the same, especially maybe even if you are the best, you probably get the same prices, you keep the same prices in Vilnius as in Paris, but in Paris you will always earn more in this regard. So that's why it will be an encouragement for you to go for better life, because you have one life. One day it will be probably equal or more or less relative, but now there is a still difference. But what we can do as the government, I would say you can sit and complain and cry about it, but it doesn't change anything. It's not creative. You need to create something, and to create, you need to keep in touch with your diaspora. That's what we do. We have a number of programs in Lithuania which enables youngsters to go back to Lithuania. For example, Let's Create for Lithuania, where the students in the foreign universities will be invited to Lithuania, placed in some companies or public institutions to create for Lithuania for, let's say, a couple of months or half a year, and most of them will stay, like 75% will stay. Even if you are living and made your life in a foreign country, it doesn't matter. We also think of you as a part of Lithuania. If you were eager to be a part of our life back in Lithuania, you could be mentoring young people. If you are a successful businessman living in, I don't know, LA, you could be joining the mentoring program where you will get a student somewhere back in Lithuania and you will be helping him to go through the first stages after high school, or after university. Help him to move forward and to share your experience. So that's what's important, And then, of course, build Lithuania, create jobs, develop country, grow economy, keep in touch with your diaspora, and one day what we see as a minus today could be a big surplus, because what you could do if you have money, you always will buy the best technology there is. It's simple. You just buy technology and you own it. But to buy experience, it's almost impossible. You get a consultant, but consultant will never be somebody to substitute for your own experience, for the people. And you could get, if you get Lithuanians who went out for the last 10, 15 years, at least a fraction, 5-7% of them back, or even their kids, or kids of their kids, those will be a global citizens. They will know how to do business in US, they know how to do business in, I don't know, Australia, France, and we have a number of examples like this. We are not parents, but their kids will go back to Lithuania and build a life there.
You said that most of the Jewish population was depleted during World War II. Are there any Jewish people who live in Lithuania now?
Yes, but those are very small numbers, nothing to compare with ones we had. There may be, I could be mistaken, but they're not very, the figure will be not very far from 2,000. No, so it's not big community. There are still community, but not nothing of the, the fraction which we used to have before World War II.
I'd like to maybe end on a positive, very positive note and transition to what's going to happen next. For me, Lithuania symbolizes perseverance and an amazing perseverance with 200 years almost of domination. And one of the most beautiful and striking things that is in my heart about Lithuania is the singing revolution, which was not just Lithuania, which was also Estonia and Latvia. The three countries, non-violently through the Dana, through their songs, through their ancient songs, their folk songs, their religious songs, their patriotic songs, gave a message to Russia, at the time the Soviet Union, that was so exquisite, totally non-violent. There was minimal violence in that revolution. We're going to have a performance after this of Lithuanian Dana songs by a beautiful singer. So can you say a few words about the strength of Lithuania's culture that was manifested after all those years of occupation and suppression? Can you just speak to that, the power of your culture?
I would say that a lot of people would, of course not a lot of Americans would know that the resistance to the Soviet occupation, the actual resistance fighting the Soviet occupation was lasting for another 10 years after World War II. The people were so-called forest brothers, were living in the forest and fighting a guerrilla war against the Soviets because they believed it's just a matter of time when somebody will go to come to our assistance. When this movement was subdued by the Soviets, because it was struggling clearly up to a big mountain, the resistance never ended. And I could tell you a number of examples. One of those will be, of course, still tragic one. One of the students in Kaunas self-immolated on the occasion of Day of Independence, just as in protest to show that, and it was close to my date of birth, so I was, of course, just born kid, but that was coming, and it caused demonstrations. The West haven't seen it on TV screen. Nobody was filming. The only people who were filming it were probably KGB agents trying to distinguish all those people in the crowd, which had a lot of trouble afterwards. So but there were demonstrations. There were every February 16th, which was the Independence Day of Lithuania in 1918, was the big headache for the KGB anywhere in Lithuania, because they knew that overnight, three-color flag, yellow, green, and red, could pop up somewhere on one of the public buildings, and that will cause some headache, for the KGB officer local. How he haven't seen it, how he have not prevented, because this flag we carry with the pride today was forbidden in the Soviet time. And not to speak about our anthem and other things which reminded people of once independent Lithuania. So everything which could remind of the people on their freedom was bad and was forbidden. And also the other simplest example of protestation or manifestation of freedom, love, it's my personal example. I finished still high school in Soviet times. It was 1989. 88 already started, country was changing. But 89 it was still a Soviet school. And in those years when I was finishing, somebody brought me to the painting, which was hanging there all the years I remember since the first grade. I was there. So it always was present, this painting on the wall in the main hall in the Soviet high school. And I was asked to look at it. And what do I see in this painting? And I was telling, I saw it so many times through those years. So what do you expect me to see new in this building, in this painting? And I was looking in maybe I missed some small detail. And then I was asked, no, you don't look in details. You just look at the painting as a whole. And when I was looking at the whole, I was astonished because that was Lithuanian fields in autumn. But when you skip all the detail and you just look at the painting in color, you would see that it was Lithuanian flag. All painting was Lithuanian flag. Yellow, green, and red. And what was incredible, somebody was so smart, to basically hang the Lithuanian national flag in the Soviet high school in the main place for so many years. And it was, that was also a form of protest. And of course, yes, we do take pride that our revolution was a singing revolution. I think there is not a stronger symbol for freedom than the Baltic Way. There is a big, strong reason for this to be a part of intangible assets of heritage, of world heritage. That's a part of world heritage. That's what we, as freedom-loving people, contributed to the heritage in the world, which always will be remembered. Something people have created, not nature, not architecture, not built, but just humans standing in line for 400 miles, hand in hand, and declaring to everyone around that we would like to be free.
So there's no better segue to what you gave me just now, to move to our music. But first, join me in thanking His Excellency and Dr. Nathan very much. So Christina, we're ready.
thank you so much for having us here today. We're glad to be here. And this set of songs was mostly about spring and flowers, as you gathered. And the lecture was Lithuania then and now. So we thought this was the now, because the music is pretty modern. The next piece that we're going to do is from one of the most famous operas, Pilene. It was based on true events back in Middle Ages. So we thought that we had to include this in the program. we'll do a little bit of the then music. Oh yeah, that's true. If you know the melody, you can sing along, I guess. Some of you might know them. Hopefully. right, so.
Now you really have to sing along, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. I think many of you will know this. It is pretty much like the God Bless of America version of Lithuania. So please, please do join in if you know this. Even if you don't know this, hum along.
really giving us such a special glimpse into your country. So now, please join us right across the hallway in the art room. We're going to have a reception and a chance for you to meet our guests tonight. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Oh, thank you so
Thank you
much.
for coming.
No problem.
Ačiū labai, puikus koncertas. Labai malonu.
Ačiū
I
labai.
think the music is such a big